Hello and welcome to the Crypto Club and Digital Assets weekly catch-up on Zoom. It is Sunday, the 3rd of September 2023, and as is always the case with these sessions, we never quite know what we're going to be talking about or who we're going to be listening to. So stick around, hope you enjoy it. Do remember to click the like, the subscribe, even better, come along to a future session. We hold these every Sunday evening, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. UK time, and everyone is invited. So if you're a novice and you're just coming to terms with all the various phrases that you hear in the crypto space and all the various letters like ICOs, STOs, TGEs, whatever other three-letter acronyms really, or you may hear about DeFi or the metaverse, then come along and join in and ask questions. If you're someone who's running a project, then come join us as well. We have our Gone in 180-second sessions now, and this is where you have 3 minutes to talk, and it is talk only, no slides, no video, no PowerPoint or anything. You can just talk about what your project is, what it's doing, and as long as it's not shilling, scamming, or doing some sort of hype, then you're welcome to come and talk about it. Actual content of the meeting will depend upon who comes along, so it's entirely up to the participants what we end up talking about. So do come along and join in a future conversation. Hope you enjoy this week's show. We record these and we publish them on YouTube each week, so you can watch the back catalogue as well. So let's see who's going to come and join us today. How's it going?
Good. I just clicked randomly on a link.
And you fell into the meeting. Excellent. Well done.
Yeah, it's like the guy who joined the NATO meeting 2 years ago.
Oh, and was this the one that where he was on the TV or something, and they thought he was some expert, and he was actually just a guy who was just in the studio? Excellent. Well, thanks for joining us anyway. I'm being joined by, it says G, so I'm guessing that's Gabrielle in Spain. Hey, Gabrielle? Or if it is, they're just trying to find the mute button.
Hi,
Hey, Gabrielle, how are you?
how are you?
I'm good.
Me too. Thank you very much. Nice to meet you, Chris.
Hey guys.
Chris, tell us a bit more then. I don't think you've been along to one of these sessions before, have you?
No, never.
Where are you and what are you up to? What's your interest?
I'm in London and I'm an ex-software engineer, ex-startup founder, and amateur investor, like amateur trader, like in digital assets. Made a lost fortune twice.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just about to register for token 2049 in Singapore, and then my wife came. It's like, yeah, it's like it's not gonna be possible.
Okay.
So I'm like, oh shit.
I guess it's going to be particularly expensive because if I've seen the literature, Token 2049 is on at the same time as the Formula One is on in Singapore as well.
Yeah, I guess yeah, hotels are very expensive,
Yep.
and yeah, usually you don't. It's not very productive because all the important people they have side meetings and
Yep.
and so on. But yeah, I guess I got a project now. I'm working on a DeFi project, so I can at least get a how can I say something to talk about.
Okay.
So I was CTO briefly of a regulated exchange based in Abu Dhabi in UAE, which opened more doors. So say I'm CTO of one of the first regulated exchanges in the world. But it was not like it was very boring. You could just buy and sell Bitcoin. There's no DeFi, no metaverse, no gaming, nothing.
Okay. But that's quite an achievement to be able to say that you've worked for a company that had regulatory approval.
Yes.
That's
But
really
other
good.
people didn't allow it to do business, essentially.
Okay.
I think they had the wrong approach. I think the other ones, I mean, Binance, maybe not the best example, but they just build a business and then they say, "Hi guys, we want to be regulated. What shall we do?" But they were like,
Yeah.
So, uh,
I think that's where it's been interesting watching the regulators over the last few years, kind of where you've had it exactly as you say. Some companies have actually gone to the regulators and said, hey, we are doing this. We know it's not regulated currently, but what do we need to do in order to comply? And the regulators have kind of gone, well,
yeah. I mean, on one side, if you go for like TradFi regulations, I don't know why they make such a fuss about it's always a new tech. I mean, all the regulations are just same as traditional finance, and I don't know. I
it
don't
should
see
be,
why.
I was going to say that the regulation should be technology agnostic anyway, shouldn't it? It's all to
Yeah,
do
but
with
they're
what
not.
the impact is. Yeah.
They're really, really scared. And one of the insane things we had with ADGM, with the Abu Dhabi regulator, is they wanted real time. They wanted to get a copy of every single order on the exchange in real time, sent over by a double dedicated channel, not over internet,
Okay.
and twice like redundant. And they both, this is crazy. Like even like I'm not from the financial industry, but people are telling me that like brokerages and others, they typically give them end of day reports.
Mm-hmm.
But with us, they want real time monitoring of about every single thing's going on. And the funny thing was that our exchange was in beta, that we had no customers, and just with the like minimal test traffic on it, the system couldn't catch. The system was not performing. So that was like highly experimental, but I'm really, really scared of. And then the big question is, I think now they allow you to sort of trade a few digital assets like Bitcoin or Ethereum. But the big question is, why would anyone, what are you going to do with those? Like, why would anyone buy them?
Yeah. Well, it's kind of curious, isn't it? Because I guess they don't do real-time transaction monitoring on traditional finance
No,
stuff.
they wanted
But
real-time monitoring, and
yeah,
they're really, really scared about everything. And um, the case, in the case of UAE and Dubai, now they have regulated framework, but they typically don't allow you to do DeFi, for example.
okay.
Uh, the things that are regulated is to trade digital assets, but without use case, why would anyone buy those? Like if you now you can buy Ethereum, but if Ethereum can't power is the fuel that's powering DeFi or GameFi, but if those activities are not okay, why would you buy those? So
Quite strange. Well, it's interesting. I think the regulators are still, in some ways, trying to find their feet and are trying to get that kind of comfortable level.
yeah, and then in DeFi they want to regulate the same way as a centralized exchange with transaction monitoring approval and so on. And then why bother with DeFi? Like
Yeah.
it's DeFi. Like why if it's not permissionless, then why make it slow, expensive, and clunky when we have cutting edge technology, we can make it really fast, performant, and so on. Why even bother with the DEXs?
Yeah. I guess the other problem at the moment as well, you've now got things like the travel rule that's been implemented.
Yes, yeah.
Which now means, for those who don't know, that the travel rule is an obligation to record the details of every transaction of where a crypto has come from, as in who's it come from and where has it gone to. And there's an obligation to now record that detail and to do like the kind of the KYC or the know your customer information around that. So the challenge with that with crypto is quite often you only know it's going from wallet address A to wallet address B.
Yeah.
But what you also now need to do, certainly as exchanges, is know who owns wallet address A and who owns wallet address B. So yeah.
Yeah, it's insane. Even in traditional finance, before 9/11, before 2001, it didn't exist.
Mm. Yeah, that's interesting. It's as I say, I think they're still trying to find their way in some way. So we've been joined by Rajesh and Elena as well. Good evening to you both.
Hello.
On a very late evening for Rajesh. I'm guessing you in India at the moment, Rajesh? He's smiling, and I can't hear him, so he's getting comfortable. Cool. Okay, so we've got Rajesh. I can see your lips moving, but I can't hear you at the moment. So we've got a nice international blend of things. We've got Chris in the UK, but we were just talking about Abu Dhabi and some of the Middle Eastern regulatory experiences. Elena is out in Ireland. Gabrielle's in Spain. Rajesh, is it Delhi you're in, Rajesh? You're still talking, and I still can't hear you. So no, not to worry. Oh, he's going to throw it all out of the window, and then it'll magically work. So, no, Chris, let's come back to you because we've got the good comms on that. So, you're saying that you're working on a project now. Is that something that is open for people to learn about, or is it something?
Yeah, definitely. It's a DeFi. No, the thing that you shouldn't do at the moment, because as I said, there's no investment, there's no venture capital, regulators don't want it, and so on. It's in DeFi, and I was thinking, you know what, like having programmable money, that feels like derivatives, like options, like if this happens, then this happens, like having some triggers. And funnily enough, in DeFi is completely underrepresented, and we've got some. I mean, DeFi itself now, TVL is like 38 billion. It's maybe it's less, and it's just AMMs, tons of AMMs, and then aggregators, and then they have some lending protocols, and that's about it. Well, we had this during DeFi summer. We had a lot of Ponzi's,
Yep,
and yield farming, and so on. But there's nothing else. And to me, if there's one thing that screams smart contract to me, that's derivatives, and I wanted to build something in the space. Basically, it's more. I'm not like, my background is tech, so I'm not from the financial industry, so it's more driven by tech. And then on one side, the derivatives market is like huge, infinite, and on the other side, it's totally underrepresented in DeFi. And then I got some. I mean, the idea is, how can you generate yields for, like, real yield for investors, not Ponzi, not doing Ponzinomics and so on. And there is something called structured products that apparently is huge in wealth management. So it's not accessible to normal people. I mean, it is in a way, but like normal people don't really do it. But if you're a high net worth individual, and there's something that you have access to, and all things like covered calls, like if you can hold a stock, and if you're happy to hold that stock, you can be paid to hold. Like you can get income from that without actually losing it. And
so one of the problems, I guess, and this is where it's interesting, you saying you have the technology background, not the financial services background, is straight away in the UK, the FCA put in regulation, put in regulation to prevent the sale of crypto derivative products to consumers. So you're exactly right that you can potentially have wrappers around crypto which do all sorts of things. So whether that's swaps, OTCs, or other derivatives or whatever. But in the UK, you're not allowed to market them to consumers. You can only market them to businesses. So the FCA actually did a survey a while ago, and they reached out to the wider crypto community, and they asked for people's opinions and that. And I think it was something like, it was either 92 or 96% of the respondents said, yes, you should make crypto derivatives available to consumers. And the FCA totally ignored that and banned them. So
and the idea here is not to offer the actual derivatives to consumers, or it's not an exchange. It's to build open what's called vaults, was made popular by is it called Ion Finance or Ion Finance?
Mm.
All they do is they invest in index in liquidity LPs, and actually these are bad deals for the investor, but it's the math is beyond me. But like if you invest in Uniswap as a liquidity provider, the fee structure of Uniswap, it doesn't compensate you for the risk you're taking.
Okay.
But there's some very complicated math behind. But essentially, if you're a retail investor and you're investing in those vaults, and there's Curve Finance as well. Curve Finance, Uniswap, to name a few. You're not rewarded properly. I mean, you have to hedge your risk, but the fees that they pay you are not, because this is just a flat fee. And I heard that Uniswap now they're working on a new fee structure as well.
Okay.
But that's the only thing really that's available. And I think with structured products, the beauty of structured products, especially for blockchain, is that you don't have to trade often. I mean, the system, the smart contracts, and typically they sell weekly options, and you can build some kind of revenue structure. And there's no free money, so you always give up something. Like the simplest example that everybody's doing, and there are other projects that are doing it, is called covered calls on Bitcoin or Ethereum.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't have to do them because you can do them manually by yourself. You can go to Deribit or to some exchange and you can sell options.
Yep.
But this is just a vault. You just deposit your money and it automatically compounds. So you give up if there's an uptick, if the market, if let's say if the price of Bitcoin goes up, you give up the upside, some of the upside, and you get paid for that. So you get constant yield on your money.
Okay.
You never lose money. You never lose money. That's just an example of a product. I mean, the other product that can. But if the price of Bitcoin goes up, you potentially miss out on the upside because you have to.
So this is where you start getting into a lot of what are considered traditional financial instruments. So you've got things like swaps and options. So an option, for those who don't know, you think about when you're buying a share. You buy a share. I'd like £100 worth of Shell or something. An option is an option to buy something at a certain price at a point in the future.
Yeah.
But there's also an option to sell a share at a particular price at a point in the future. And so it depends. There's two types. One is called a put, one is called a call.
Yeah.
And the same principle works with crypto, with some traders, whereby you can put in an option to buy at a future price, particular crypto. So the reason people might do this is, say Bitcoin is trading at, say, I think it's about $26,000 at the moment. If you think it's definitely going to go up in price, then you might offer to buy it at a slightly higher price, thinking it's going to go up even higher. And you commit to that. Now, in the event that the price comes in and it doesn't reach that level, it's only an option to buy it. So you're not actually obliged to buy it. So where it is the contract expires, as it's called, and you just lose the small amount that you made for this kind of bet. But if it does work, then it means you can do very nicely. So it's used in traditional finance a lot. In the commodities industry, I used to work in oil trading, and we did a lot of futures and swaps and options in order to reduce the risk of oil prices changing significantly and catching us out. And you can do the same in crypto. It's a fascinating area. I used to read a lot about options and that, and there are clever tricks you can use where you can buy at a certain future price and sell at a certain future price, and there's actually a spread between the two. And if you do it right, you can make money out of it. If you do it wrong, you can lose an awful lot of money.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's called IOTA Finance. I've got a website, but the idea here is to not speculate. Of course, you can use options to speculate. Is to actually it's in the name, to generate yield. Is to harvest yield from
Okay.
volatility by different strategies. And there are the, I think the first project in the space is called Ribbon Finance, but they haven't done too much. Also, I want to be open, not just the options. I'm thinking of because it's just vaults, right? You can have a catalog of vaults and users can invest wherever they want. And there's this
just for clarity, how you're using the term vault, you effectively mean an account into which people can put their crypto in some way. So it's like a pool in some way.
Yeah. But it's a smart contract, so technically it's not asset management. There's no people managing your money, so it's a nice little machine, and it does what it says it does. I guess that's the USP of blockchain. Of course, normal people can't monitor the transactions, but maybe they can ask someone smart and say, "Well, is it doing what it says it's doing?" Right? And
this is the other thing as well. So for those who aren't quite familiar with this, what you can do is you can have on, say, the Ethereum blockchain, there might be a smart contract into which you allocate your crypto and you get paid a yield in return for that. So they're using your crypto as a way of providing themselves with a liquidity pool, and you get the equivalent of interest on that. Because it's through a smart contract, that means it all gets written to the blockchain. So this is how you might hear the term total value locked, or TVL. And that's where on the Ethereum blockchain, for example, if you know how to interrogate it, you can actually see how much in Ethereum is locked up in smart contracts in this way. So it's quite a nice thing that you can't do the equivalent in fiat or traditional monies. So you've got kind of open transparency, which is pretty decent.
Yeah, definitely. The one thing that bothers me is the security aspect. Is that I mean, we have to use what's out there. We don't have time to do fundamental innovation on blockchain. But we don't have like the layer defense. I was working in traditional systems, and like, if someone gets hold of the system, like someone orders a transaction to withdraw money, I'm like, it doesn't matter, because I mean, it goes through another department, and you can monitor, like you can have systems that monitor transactions, and there's someone is requesting a withdrawal that's like above 1,000 hertz and all these things, and there's like multiple gateways, and at the end, like there's like if in my case, for example, I had a payment processor, at some point I have to request the payment. Even then, the actual payment is delayed, so
things can be checked.
Many steps and gateways, but with smart contracts. I mean, the way it works at the moment is just a valid transaction on chain, and it's executing, and it can be drained, like the whole thing can be drained in an instant.
Yep.
So if someone knows how to do things better, I'm a taker. But I haven't heard any. Maybe things with like with layer twos, like maybe there's some hope there.
I'm not convinced on that, but layer two, to me, I'm a little bit biased, is fixing the wrong problem. It's fixing the problem in the wrong way. Because as soon as you start talking about layer two, you're taking it off the blockchain. And to me, if you have to take something off the blockchain, then it probably means you need to change the blockchain.
Yeah, but it's because everything is on layer two has to be validated on layer one at some point. That buys you some time to react and address some security issues. I mean, that's just an idea of mine. It's my idea. Like, But I said I have no
That's fair.
time to work on that.
That's fair. Okay. Well, I was going to quickly open it up a little bit because it's an interesting topic there, and there's still a lot of stuff that's developing in there. Well, I just wanted to check to anyone who's joined. Does anyone have any questions or anything that they want to add at this stage?
What's crypto derivative products that are not allowed for consumers? Could you give me some examples, please?
So at the moment in the UK, and it's the same with many places, you can buy Bitcoin, an example. So you can buy and sell Bitcoin across an exchange. That's nice and simple. If you have what is called a derivative, so this is another product, whether that's a financial product or a crypto product, that references that Bitcoin. So you might have what's called an index. So an index tracker fund, for example, might look at the price of crypto or might look at the price of Bitcoin, and effectively, rather than you buying the crypto itself, you buy an index to the crypto, which is kind of weird because that's almost exactly what the likes of Revolut do. Mm-hmm. So Revolut, you don't actually buy the crypto, you buy the rights of the value of the crypto. So it is kind of a derivative in a way, but it seems to be allowed by the FCA. So a derivative is anything that provides you with the means to kind of trade in crypto without owning the crypto. So you might see some things coming in at the moment in the US in particular. The SEC is fighting a number of applications for what are known as ETFs. So these are exchange traded funds. So this is where somebody might have a pool of Bitcoin and they're selling rights of access to it and everything with future prices, that kind of thing. The SEC recently, they were pulled up by one of the courts a few days ago about they refused BlackRock, who've applied for an ETF, and they've told them to go back and rethink about it. So a derivative is anything that is something that you can buy or sell, which isn't actually the underlying thing itself. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you. Thanks.
Okay, so it is a bit weird. The really weird thing is that Bitcoin technically in the UK is not regulated. So cryptocurrency is not regulated. But if you put a wrapper over it, and so you provide like an exchange traded fund or a pool or whatever, then a crypto derivative like that is regulated and is banned. Mm-hmm. So yeah. It's quite strange. I've never quite understood how it is that you've got an unregulated product that if you present it in a certain way, then becomes by default regulated. So quite strange.
Yeah. Well, one thing that I don't understand about regulations, they say same risk, same regulation, something, but that's not true. Because I come from a technical background, right? And we have this concept of agile or agile development or iterative. And mm-hmm. I don't understand why don't they start with like a version of regulations, like let's say tackling the two most common problems that we had in the crypto industry, and take it from there, like iterate on there. But every time there's a new problem, then we discuss, okay, what could be a solution, and then let's do that. Because if you look at the past events, there has been two main issues, in my opinion. Number one issue is commonly, basically, it's not even regulations. That's like the 10 commandments, like don't steal. It's not even, don't steal. It's like exchanges or companies stealing money. I mean, and then it happened to me as well. I had money at Kraken in 2016, and I got hacked my account, and then the regulators, the SEC, they said, "Whoa, we're not competent. We can't say anything." Come on. I did a wire transfer. I sent money to that company's bank account, and then they say, "Sorry, money gone."
Mhm.
Like, no, it's and that's number one problem, commingling of accounts. Like, don't use client funds, and nothing complicated about that. And number two was the cybersecurity,
Mhm.
which they could at least enforce some best practices, like cold wallets and so on, and that will solve a lot of the problems, like FTX and so on.
It's kind of interesting because I get quite involved in some things around digital asset custody and that. And I find a lot of people don't actually understand how crypto actually works. And so the whole thing about cold wallets, they don't actually work the way most people think they do. And so I always get nervous about that. So I agree things like having segregation of duties, segregation of responsibilities, no commingling of client funds. Multi-signature is something that should be done as default with a lot of things. Yeah, that would make a lot of problems go away as well.
It's not a silver bullet, but like using something like MPC or multi-signature solves a lot of the issues.
Yeah.
Then of course there's some smart people say how that's not the best, how no, but come on, the most of the tests or rug pulls, as we say, have been because someone had the key and.
Yeah. Absolutely. But it's interesting you're saying about regulators adopting an agile approach. The reason they won't do that is for fear that just exposes the public in some way to more than they're willing to risk. So one encouraging thing is that the FCA, for example, have got what they call the regulatory sandbox program. And this is where they allow projects to push the boundaries of regulation and explore things. So a little bit like you're describing, where they allow companies to try out ideas and that kind of thing. They've kind of recently changed how the sandbox works. It's not just for crypto, it's for any financial product or company who offers financial services. But the idea is to allow them to explore and push the boundaries and develop and improve. And the FCA is now collaborating with a lot of other regulators around the world around having like an international regulatory sandbox type capability. So the regulators are kind of getting there, but they've got a vested interest in not changing very quickly because they're very protectionist.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I've got a really good example. I should write an article about how regulations on internet should be done.
okay.
Because internet is borderless. It's not. I mean, these regulators are national regulators, and there is something that is powering basically e-commerce. That's SSL. That's the secure layer protocol on internet, and the regulators done extremely well. Because I used to work a little bit in a company that was a certificate authority, and they have this kind of the regulation is called CAB Forum, I think. CAB Forum, and it's like a consortium. It's a global organization, and it's extremely tough to get approved to issue certificates. That's really, really tough, and it's really serious. It's way security-wise is way better than anything we've got in finance. Maybe you should write down something about this as a little again. This is how it should be done. It's international. It's all the countries together and all the industry players. They agree on some standards, and that's how they say they stamp a company is good enough or is not good enough to issue certificates.
Okay. Well, you certainly have what is known as certificate authorities on the web. So on the internet side of things, where you've got when people go to a website which is like HTTPS.
Yeah, exactly.
And
certificate authority, a company to be authorized to issue certificates needs to go through extremely thorough approval process, and they're just a bunch of those in the world. So, yeah.
Interesting stuff. So Right, so let's open it up a little bit because there's some interesting things on there. I don't know, Rajesh, you got any updates? What's going on? Have you managed to sort your microphone out? He's staying on mute, or maybe he's. Hey, we can hear you now.
Yeah, sorry, it's a two-night here. So because after so many weeks I joined this session, so I listened. Chris is a wonderful session, and also I got to know about the recently the UK government has imposed on restrictions of the crypto transactions. Okay, it's very good things. Recently, I was occupied to organize in Delhi. Last time I already told you we are organizing community meetup regarding the crypto and blockchains in our community launch events. So I want to share my experience, what kind of people I met, and what kind of response I've got the online, offline, and in person.
Okay.
So can I share?
Yeah, just quickly, that'd be good. It'd be interesting
Sure.
to hear your experience.
Yeah. So on 27th August, we have organized a session in Delhi and NCR again. So I got the more than you can say 158 registrations on Luma, and the people turn on just only 10%, 15 people. The most people come from the tech background. Either you can say college going student and blockchain developer. They're looking for the career change or they want to build a career. But not there are very few people who has shown as a crypto trader or entrepreneur. But I haven't got chance to meet such kind of people. But what I've discovered that the maximum the community in Delhi and say what I discovered the mostly tech peoples or they are building their own solutions on the chains. Either you can say Polygon, Solana, Ethereum, Binance. So everyone is trying to sell. Either you can say more gaming centric solutions, such kind of things. So that's the you can say my experience inside was happened in last weekend. Thank you.
Okay, that's good. Well, it's nice to hear that you're making contact with the community and everything. And there's a lot of stuff going on around the whole of India, but certainly in Delhi, that seems to be quite a hotbed with some things. So that's good to hear. Thanks for sharing. And
Yes.
so we've just been joined by Peter as well. You managed to get in, okay, Peter? Hello there. Go on, your lips are moving, but you're on mute. Oh, and he's still on mute. Oh, he's off mute.
I must apologize.
Thanks for sending the link, Gary.
Hey, no worries. You've missed a few chats. We've been talking about the pace and speed of regulation, or rather the lack of it, which is always an interesting one.
Unfortunately, leave
regulation by enforcement.
Sorry, yes, Chris, did you say you need to leave?
I need to go.
Okay.
I left my on the chat. I let my maybe not.
Okay, we'll check out Up Yield. That's great. Thanks for sharing, and come again, and maybe next time you actually give us a 3-minute pitch on
definitely
what is you working
on. I got co-founders now. It's tough to find co-founders. Still trying to find someone from TradFi who's actually a derivatives experts. But yeah, we are on a. We're going to look at what's needed for funding next.
Okay. That's always a challenging one. Well, wish you well with that, and hope to see you again sometime.
Yeah, absolutely. Pleasure.
Thanks for coming along. That's great. See you around, Chris. Yeah. Peter, it seems that you've joined us. How's your crypto journey at the moment? Anything of interest?
Not direct involvement, just watching the markets and following what's happening with the CBDCs, the regulations, as you say, the regulation by stealth, the Ripple suit. I'm quite heavily invested in Ripple and XRP. So it's trying to work that out and trying to work out. There's obviously something happening that is behind the scenes and not direct, closing all the on-ramps, the off-ramps.
Yep. It's interesting. It is. I think you used the phrase before, regulation by stealth.
Yeah.
There is more
regulation by enforcement or regulation by stealth. It's regulation. They're trying to stop us getting into crypto because of things that are happening. I think a lot of that's around the BRICS stuff and the BRICS coin and the petrodollar.
Yeah. Yeah. So for those who don't know, I think we mentioned something about BRICS a week or two back. So, but BRICS is the economic group of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa.
Plus six to be.
I was going to say that they had a meeting last week, was it, in South Africa?
Yeah.
And they announced a further 6 countries, I think it is, who are planning on joining from January. And that includes, I've forgotten, was it Saudi Arabia?
Yeah, Saudi, Iran, Ethiopia, Iran. That's the big ones I remember. Because it's Saudi and Iran together, which is wow. Argentina in South America joining Russia and China, which is unheard of, our backyard. Ethiopia I couldn't work out, but that's commodities.
Yep.
But it was the Saudi. Is Saudi going to go in or not? They've officially applied and been officially invited now to come in January. But that's the petrodollar. And this is the thing now about the de-dollarization. Is it attacking America, or is it happening with America's blessing? Because as you know, the only other times people have tried to sell oil not in US dollars, their country has been bombed into the dark ages.
Yep.
Yeah. So whether they announced whether they announced a CBDC or a cryptocurrency last week, which they said before they weren't going to, and they didn't. But asset-backed crypto looks like the death of the dollar.
Certainly, there's. I guess the death of the dollar is beginning to get a bit like the death of Bitcoin. It's been predicted so many times and never happened. So we'll see. But yeah, you're right. And the interesting thing as well, people don't realize that most currencies don't actually last very long. So the average lifespan of a currency, a government or country-backed currency, I think I worked it out a while ago, is 38 years. And the dollar and the pound are the 2 major exceptions to that. The British sterling has been going on for, I think it's over 200 years or something. It's a very, very long time. And the US dollar in its current form has been going since kind of the 1940s, you could argue, in some ways. So it might actually be due to suddenly change. And the thing with currencies is that when they go wrong, they tend to go wrong very, very quickly. That they fall off a cliff, exactly. And people sometimes use the example of in Germany and the Weimar, what was it, with the massive inflation that they had, where all of a sudden people were going around with bags of money because it was worth nothing type thing. So there is that concern that the US dollar could suddenly topple, which would have massive impact around the world on stuff far, far wider than just crypto. So interesting time.
It's you say that. Remember, you mentioned 1940 dollars. So 1933, they took it off the dollar peg and repegged at double gold, $20 to 40. Then Nixon took it off at 72. Then 75, we did the Bretton Woods, and that's when it went to the petrodollar because it wasn't asset backed. So now the assets are walking away. So with Saudi and UAE was another one, Emirates. So they say now, if they come in, they control 80% of the world's oil, something like 80% of the commodities. Currently, the BRICS 5 have got GDP bigger than the G7 without the new members. So that's bigger than America, France, Italy, Germany. And they're all going down now. They're all getting into recession. So it's a real pivot. And in terms of the crash, it's like slowly, then quick. So the US dollar, that's the thing for it. It's not the currency, it's the reserve currency. So people are keeping their money in reserve and in bonds. And you've seen what's happened to the banks now. You buy a dollar bond with a 1% yield, and it's now worth 60 cents. So now, if your crypto's bond backed, it's underwater, and they're just folding all these companies up into the JP Morgans now, which I think is controlled demolition. I think that's their intent. A few big banks to control what they're doing. So it's the US dollar, I think it was 80% of all international trade. just about 20 years ago. It's down to 58 today, and that drop is getting steeper.
Okay.
So as you know, you need it for the counterparty, the Vostra Nostra. You've got all dollars, etc., and no one wants $12 since they stole all of Russia's dollars, huh?
Mm.
So now everyone's de-dollarizing. It's what you put it in. So it's we've seen a very Eurocentric view here, and when you look at Ukraine and stuff, you see how biased and it's just straight up propaganda we get. So you've got to go to news source and you see what's happening around the world, and you see Africa wants to kick out all the colonials.
Mm.
And then what's that mean? Well, that's for the commodities again. So as the West we need access to commodities, and they don't want dollars and euros.
Mm. Yeah. It's interesting because you look at the world stability or lack of, and at first, when you start looking at things, you think the world is becoming increasingly unstable right now.
Mm.
I don't think it is. I think it's simply our awareness of how unstable it already is increasing. And that's interesting. But yeah, Africa's had a few coups the last couple of weeks with, was it Niger and Gabon? Governments collapsed. Mali as well, is it? Okay.
So that's all since they had the Africa summit in Moscow 4 weeks ago. They've had 4 coups in Africa.
Okay.
Yeah. And they were all French, 4 of the 9 territories in France, which basically shadow empire. They're still using the gold, French, the franc, basically.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So it's, but when you say stability, the things that are going on have been happening for many years now. And now it's coming out what we're crunch. If you see Tucker Carlson at all, 100 million views on Twitter, he said 80% sure World War III this year, nuclear, Americans in Europe, 80%. And you think, wow, we're worried about global warming. It's nuclear winter we need to be worrying about. And, as we discussed, what's the best thing to invest in? Beans and bullets.
Yep. It's what I say. If people if they're thinking about whether to invest in property, gold, cash, crypto, non-perishable tinned goods and bottled water is probably no bad thing. But hopefully it won't be as bad as it's being made out. Again, yeah. I've seen these kind of cycles previously where you get these feelings of the world's about to implode and that. And I remember living through a lot of the Cold War, standing outside military bases, looking at nuclear bombers taking off, thinking, okay, this it looks good, but you don't really realize what you're actually watching at times. So interesting time. So,
but it's all got a bearing on crypto, because it's now the next thing that will come will be to stop capital flight.
Yep.
Which will be capital controls on borders. Crypto, Bitcoin gets around that. So it's talking to KYC, and the regulations all about an intermediary and custodians. So it's a macroeconomic environment, or it's the geopolitical environment which is driving crypto now, not trading patterns.
It also means you mentioned CBDCs. So for those who aren't familiar with the term, central bank digital currencies, so these are government-run digital currencies. So they're not cryptocurrencies, but they kind of look and feel like them in some way. It's just that they're government controlled by government ledger. A lot of governments are doing a lot of research into adopting CBDCs right now. And I think there's currently 5 projects that are live around the world. So in Nigeria, no, they're actually live.
Oh,
so
this is
So in Nigeria, there's the Inara, which hasn't gone down very well. There's the Bahamas Sand Dollar, I think it is another one that's live. And in China, you've got the e-renminbi or the e-yuan, which I think they've rolled out to about 100 million people or something. And that's one definitely worth watching, because that links in with using platforms like WeChat, which is kind of like the Chinese equivalent of WhatsApp. And it allows you to make payments using the e-yuan. But then there's also talk about the Chinese government linking in the CBDC with what's known as the SRI program, I think it is, which is the Social Responsibility Index, I think it's called. So it's the whole idea that if you behave and you're a good citizen, you can access your money. If you're not a good citizen, or you start socializing with people who aren't good citizens, then your social ranking goes down, and so your access to education and money decreases. So Bank of England's doing some stuff on CBDCs at the moment. They've just recently finished a consultation phase where that they were quite impressed with the number of responses they got back. I think they got over 50,000 responses.
Yeah.
They've not published a summary of them yet.
They've not publicised it, and no one knows about it. So that was really well done.
Yeah. So I think that's why they were so surprised that they had 50,000 responses. But it'll be interesting to see what kind of feedback comes from that.
The Fed now was out last month. You're not classing that as a CBDC, though. That's a stable coin.
No. Well,
Papua New Guinea announced their coin, didn't they? With that was a Ripple partnership, which is why I know it was in the news.
Yeah,
I think that's, as you say, the fifth live project. But the IMF, I think it is, that target was everyone on SWIFT should have a CBDC ready by 2025.
Okay.
So, which is why all the projects are in. So they're expecting the switch to go, around that time. I think it's this M bridge, the money bridge. So you take the dollar out, and then you need the money bridge and arbitrage between the companies. So no one has to do the hundreds of millions of dollars in Vostra Nostra holding it to settle the balances. It's all done on an atomic level, in theory. So it's the technology, the platforms are there, and they've been doing that for a long time, as you know, Gary. Digital pound with the Bank of England's been since at least 2017.
Yeah.
Now, before all the hype. And now was Bitcoin real, or was it just to get people prepared for digital? Yeah.
I'm going to stay away from the conspiracies, because the conspiracists keep outdoing the other conspiracists on that kind of thing.
Oh, it was all invented by the National Security Agency in America, allegedly. That's why I stay away from it.
It's certainly interesting stuff. So for those who didn't quite catch what Peter was saying there, he was talking about SWIFT. So SWIFT is an international organization. It's, if I remember correctly, its ownership structure is it's owned by the banks, and its purpose is to provide the technology and the infrastructure for payments, but between banks. So when you make a payment, it actually goes via the SWIFT network in some way, and they've got all the infrastructure and the hardware and everything. And SWIFT is currently adopting a new ISO standard around payments, which is known as ISO 20022. And what's interesting is that there are 5 cryptocurrencies that have been stated as being ISO 20022 compliant. So if I remember correctly off the top of my head, XRP, which is the Ripple's cryptocurrency, XLM, which is Stellar Lumens, I think IOTA, which is the IoT Tangle blockchain crypto, and I've forgotten what the other 2 are. But anyway, there's about 5 cryptocurrencies. So this is where it starts getting really interesting, that you start getting an overlap.
Quant is the one that's on my list.
Quant, yeah, QNT, you're right. So this is where it gets really interesting, that you start getting overlaps between the existing banking payment system through SWIFT, ISO standards, which are about messaging and how you transfer payments and that kind of thing, and crypto and CBDCs. Then Peter also threw in the term stablecoin, I think, as well earlier on.
Yeah,
which is where, for FedNow. So FedNow is it's just digital payments, isn't it? It's just what we've had in the UK and other countries for years. It's just faster payments.
I think so. They're basically, I think they're using RippleNet for fast payments. So all my transfers into Philippines, into Thailand, all came through RippleNet, through XRP. They've already switched over. But you might remember, talking about geopolitical, and I'm dragging on about a bit here, but you might remember they said they kicked Russia off SWIFT. So I think, Gary, you said it's for interbank settlements. It's for cross-border settlements, SWIFT, I think.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's the cross-border. So they said they kicked Russia off cross-border. Russia had already left because the BRICS have set up their own SWIFT alternative, and it's got settlement. It's not messaging, it's settlement. So it's basically RippleNet with Enbridge. With what token, we don't know. But the BRICS group has already moved off SWIFT, which is very worrying because it's a permanent decoupling.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is where you can see the geopolitics and where these coins, are they going to adopt the token, which is FUD, which is a smokescreen. Remember, it was Churchill when when the British conceded and gave up the pound as the global currency. And he said, the truth is so precious, you must always hide it within a lie. Yeah. So what's up front there? That I'm sure that's not true. And then how many layers do you go back in the Russian dolls to find the truth?
Yeah. One day the Matryoshka doll, you'll unravel it, and in the middle of it, you'll find a Bitcoin.
Bitcoin, or I'm hoping it's going to be XRP, but if not, it's Ripple anyway. So
excellent. Okay.
At least Ripple's the platform.
Yeah. So, but Peter, lots of interesting concepts and ideas there, and you're absolutely right there. It is the geopolitics which starts playing into the impact on crypto, and this is what got me interested in crypto originally. That crypto might actually be an alternative to the traditional financial systems.
Yeah,
which is why it is getting quite difficult at times to get into the crypto space by either like buying cryptocurrency or selling it, simply because the on-ramps and the off-ramps are getting increasingly regulated and controlled. Yeah.
If anyone's not aware, in terms of on and off ramps, some of the American exchanges have relisted some of the tokens, like XRP had the SEC case to say it's not a security. So it's the first one that's gotten clarity in the world that isn't the security in the States. But that's been re-enlisted on some of the American exchanges now, and Robinhood said they're going to re-enlist it. So currently they're not. I don't know why. Coinbase, I think, is re-enlisted, but I'm buying all mine through Uphold, a US platform now. So I'm getting all my ISO 222 tokens through Uphold.
Okay.
So XDC is one of those as well. Gary, you might, I don't know if you're aware, when we're talking, Bitcoin, digital gold. Yeah. Can you remember what the international symbol is for gold on the exchanges? Okay.
Go on.
It's SAU, XAU, right? And silver is ZAG, XAG. So they're that because they're not listed on the New York and London Stock Exchange. They're global. They're global assets that start with an X, XAU. So Elon Musk has just changed his platform to X, and he was paid for that, right? Now, when he said what he's trying to do with it is turn it into WeChat, which is a DApp, as you might know. So that's WeChat isn't WhatsApp, it's everything. It's e-commerce, yeah? So he's just saying, I'm going to take the space. Now, he's fixated with X, as you might know. Yeah, his last child was named X, and he's got X kids 10. His first company was X. His first car was X, Model X, yeah? So X, I don't know if you know what XRP stands for, Gary.
Oh, go on.
Well, I think it's RP is Rising Phoenix. The bird dies and rises again, yeah?
Okay.
He just killed Twitter. And he's going X and he's going to do payments. So I think, well, if I was a gambling man, I'd put a punt on that.
Yeah.
He's going to use Doge. No.
It is interesting that Twitter, or X as it's now known, has already got a cryptocurrency payment gateway built into it, which a lot of people didn't know about. And as you say, Elon Musk being one of the originators behind PayPal, it does kind of feel as though he's going to be using X as his, as you describe, a DApp, or actually that they're now described as super apps. They're apps that do everything. So they do, payments, loyalty, buying things, selling things, trading everything. And there is a theory, as you say, that he's bringing together all of his various organizations to fit within this grand plan where everything is controlled by X. And it's where, for those who used to watch, trying to remember what the TV series was now. There was an American, Mr. Robot or iRobot, where
There was a film called iRobot, I thought, but okay.
no, what wasn't that? Was it Mr. Robot? Something. It's worth checking out anyway. I had Remy Malek in it, where it was the lead person in it. Go check it out, because that had a sinister organization that was trying to take over the world currencies, and they were called, I think it was X-Core. And so you kind of think maybe that was Elon. So anyway, I think probably we're at the point where we'll close off today's call before we fall totally into the rabbit hole of who knows what, and I'll get banned off YouTube or something for whatever, for revealing the truth within the lie, or the lie within the truth. So
it will be a big pity if you get banned from the YouTube.
it would be a nuisance. We'd have to move to TikTok. Where I've already got a presence, so I'd be okay there. So look, folks, it was a very interestingly different conversation there, where it does show that there's so much going on, whether it's with crypto, with CBDCs, with stable coins, with payments standards, with accounting, all this kind of thing. Fascinating stuff. It all interlinks, and that makes it fair. So, thanks everyone for joining this week. Interesting thing. Gabrielle, I know you've just been listening in quietly there.
Thank you very much.
I hope you enjoyed it. Rajesh, thanks for joining us so late from India. Peter, thanks for your thoughts. And Elena, thank you as always, and have a great day, everybody.